degree, premeditated homicide, is the most serious charge tried in our criminal courts. You have heard a long and complex case, gentlemen, and it is now your duty to sit down and try to separate the facts from the fancy. One man is dead. The life of another is at stake. If there is a reasonable doubt in your minds as to the guilt of the accused, then you must declare him not guilty. If, however, there is no reasonable doubt, then he must be found guilty. Whichever way you decide, the verdict must be unanimous. I urge you to deliberate honestly and thoughtfully. You are faced with a grave responsibility, gentlemen. Thank you. The jury will now retire.
He doesn't stand a chance.
You think they'd at least pay air conditioning in this place? I almost dropped dead in court. My taxes are high enough. This should go fast anyway.
Yes, it's hot! All right, gentlemen, everyone's here. If you need anything, I'll be right outside. Just now.
Did she just lock that door?
Yes, she did.
What do they think we are, crooks?
Well, they'll lock us up here for a while.
And then they lock that kid up forever. That's okay by me.
I never knew they did that.
Of course they locked the door. What did you expect?
I just didn't know. It never occurred.
Shall we all admit right now that it's hot and humid and our tempers are short?
It's been a pretty hard week.
I feel just fine.
I wonder what's been going on down at the office. You know how it is in advertising. In 6 days, my job could be gone. And the whole company, too. They're not going to like this.
Well, figure this is our duty.
Oh, I didn't object to doing my duty. I just mentioned that I might not have a job by the time I get back.
Ask him to hire you. Look at that suit.
Is it custom tailor?
Yes, it is.
My uncle's a tailor.
How does he do?
Not too well. But a friend of his, that's a friend of my uncle, the tailor, this friend wanted to be on this jury in my place.
Why didn't you let him? I would have done anything to miss this.
And get caught? You know what kind of fine you could pay for something like that? Anyway, this friend was on a jury for a case just about like this one 10 years ago.
So what happened?
They let him off. Reasonable doubt. And you know, about 8 years later, they found out the kid had actually done it anyway. A guilty man, a murderer, was sent loose to the streets.
Did they get him?
They couldn't.
But why not?
A man can't be held in double jeopardy unless it's a hung jury. Can't try a man twice for the same crime.
That isn't gonna happen here.
6 days? They should have finished it in 2. Talk, talk, talk. Did you ever hear so much talk about nothing?
Well, I guess they're entitled.
That's the system. Everyone gets a fair trial.
How'd you like the business about the knife? Did you ever hear a phonier story?
Well, look, you gotta expect that. You know what you're doing.
He bought a switch knife that night.
And then he lost it.
A hole in his pocket.
A hole in his father.
An awful way to kill your father.
jest. Look at the kind of people they are. You know them.
What's the matter? You got a cold?
Oh, Lulu, these hot weather colds will kill you.
I had one last year. On vacation, too.
All right, gentlemen. Let's sit down.
Right. This better be fast. I got tickets to Steel Magnolias tonight. I think I'm the only guy in the world who hasn't seen it. All right, Your Honor. Start us off.
How about sitting down? The gentleman at the window. How about sitting down?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's tough to figure, isn't it? A kid kills his father. Bing! Just like that. Well, it's the element, I suppose. They let the kids run wild these days. Maybe it serves them right.
There are better proofs than some emotion you may have. Perhaps a dislike for some group.
We all agreed it was hot.
Yeah, man, our cameras will get short.
But that's if we disagree. This is open and shut, so let's get it done.
All right, gentlemen. I'm not going to make any rules. I'm not going to tell you how to run this. We can talk about it first and decide later, or we can vote right now and see where we stand.
Let's vote now. Maybe we can get it over with and go home.
Yeah, let's see who's where.
Right, let's vote.
All right, let us vote. Does anybody not want to vote?
That was easy.
All right. All those in favor of guilty, raise your hands. Not guilty?
Hey, you're in left field.
The vote is 11 guilty to 1 not guilty.
Do you really believe this kid is not guilty?
I don't know.
After 6 days, he doesn't know.
In 6 days, I could learn calculus. This is A, B, C.
I don't believe it's as simple as ABC.
I never saw a guiltier man in my life.
What does a guilty man look like? He is not guilty until we say he is guilty. Are we to vote on his face?
You sat in court and heard the same things I did. The man's a dangerous killer, you can see it.
Where do you look to see that a man is a killer? Well, I'd like to know. Tell me what the facial characteristics of a killer are. Maybe you know something I don't
Look,
know.
what is it about the case that makes you think the boy is innocent?
He's 19 years old.
That's old enough. He knifed his own father. 4 inches into the chest. An innocent little 19-year-old
I
kid.
agree with you that the boy's guilty, but let's try to avoid emotionally colored arguments.
They proved it a dozen different ways in court. Do you want me to list them?
No.
Well, do you believe that stupid story the kid told?
Now,
Do you believe this kid's story?
I don't know whether I believe it or not. Maybe I don't.
So what do you vote not guilty for?
There were 11 votes for guilty. It's not so easy for me to raise my hand and send a boy off to die without talking about
And
it
who
first.
said it was easy for me?
me.
No one.
He's guilty whether it's a hard vote or not.
I just think the kid's guilty, and you couldn't change my mind if you talked for 100 years.
I don't want to change your mind. Look, I just want to talk. This boy's been kicked around all his life. You know, living in the slum, his mother dead since he was 9 years old. That's not a very good head start. He's a tough, angry kid. You know why some kids get that way? Because we knock them over the head once a day, every day. I think maybe we owe him a few words, that's all.
Okay, sure, it's hard. It was hard for me. Everything I've got, I worked for. I worked my way through college. That was a long time ago. Perhaps you do forget. Sure, I fought, but I never killed.
I know what he means, and I never killed nobody.
I've been kicked around too. Wait until you work in an ad agency and the big boy buys the advertising. We all know.
In my country, in Europe, kicking was a sign. But this just found something that is a sign.
I don't mind telling you this. We don't owe that kid a thing. He got a fair trial, didn't he? You know how much that trial costs? He's lucky he got it. Look, we're all adults here. You can't expect to tell us that we're supposed to believe this kid's story, knowing what he is. I've lived among dead my whole life. You can't believe a word they say, you know that.
I don't know that! What a terrible thing to believe! Since when is dishonesty a group characteristic? You don't have a
It's not Sunday, and we do not need a
What
sermon.
this man says is deep! I don't see any need in arguing like this. We have to behave like gentlemen.
Right.
All right, if you insist.
Thank you.
Sure.
If we're going to discuss the case, why, let's discuss the facts.
That's a good point. We have a job to do. Let's do it.
If you depend on mine, I'm going to close the window.
If you don't mind, I would like to have the window open.
But it was blowing on me.
Don't you want a little air? It's summer. It's hot.
But very comfortable.
Look, there are 12 of us in this room and only one working window, if you don't mind.
But I have some rights too.
So do the rest of us.
Why don't you just trade chairs with someone at the other end of the table?
Okay. The window should be open if someone trades.
Here, take my chair.
Thank you.
Shall we get back to the case?
Yeah, let's.
Look, I may have an idea here. Now, I'm just thinking out loud. It seems obvious that it's up to us to convince this gentleman that we're right and he's wrong. Maybe if we each went around the table and talked talk for a minute or two, you know? Try it on for size.
That sounds fair.
Very fair.
Does everyone agree?
Okay, let's start it off.
All right, supposing we go once around the table. We'll start with you.
What? Oh. Yeah, I think this boy is innocent. I don't know. I just thought it was obvious.
In what way was it obvious?
Well, that nobody proved otherwise.
Nobody has to prove otherwise. Innocent until proven guilty. The burden of proof is on the prosecution. The defendant doesn't have to open his mouth. That's in the Constitution, the Fifth Amendment. You've heard of it.
Everyone has.
Well, yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah. I just think he's guilty.
No reasons. Just guilty? There's a life at stake here.
Wait a minute, let's get to the facts. Number one, let's take the old man who lived right underneath the room where the murder took place. At 10 minutes after 12, he heard loud noises in the upstairs apartment. He said it sounded something like a fight. Then he heard the boy yell to his father, "I'm going to kill you." A second later, he heard the father's body fall. He ran to the door of his apartment and saw the boy running down the stairs. 15 seconds after that, he called the police and they found the father with a knife in his chest.
The coroner fixed the time of death at about midnight.
Right, now what else do you want?
It doesn't seem to fit.
The boy's entire story is flimsy. He claimed he was at the movies. That's a bit ridiculous, isn't it? He couldn't even remember what picture he saw.
He didn't have a ticket stub.
Who keeps a ticket stub at the movies?
That's true.
Cashier didn't remember him.
And the ticket taker didn't either.
Look, what about the woman across the street? If her testimony don't prove it, then nothing does.
That's right, she saw the killing, didn't she?
Here's a woman who's lying in bed and can't sleep. It's hot, you know? Anyway, she gets up and she looks outside the window. And right across the street, she sees a kid stick a knife into his father.
How can she really be sure she saw the kid murder his father when she saw it through the windows of a passing elevated train?
She's known the kid all his life. His window was right opposite of hers, across the L tracks, and she swore she saw him do it.
I heard her swear to it.
Okay, and they proved in court that you can look through the windows of a passing L train at night and still see what's happening on the other side. They proved it.
Weren't you just telling us a moment ago that you can't believe them? That you can't trust them?
So?
Well, then I'd like to ask you something. How come you believe her? She's one of them too, isn't she?
You're pretty smart.
No! Calm down! What are you letting him get you all upset for? Relax. And sit down.
Look, gentlemen, they did take us out to the woman's room, and we looked through the windows of the passing elevator, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
And weren't you able to see what happened on the other side?
I didn't see as well as they told me I would see, but I did see what happened on the other side.
Did you see? Did you see?
Calm down.
Please. It's your turn.
I'll pass it.
That's your privilege. What about you?
I don't know. What convinced me was the testimony of the people across the hall. Didn't they say something about an argument between the father and the son around 7 o'clock? I don't know. I could be wrong.
I think that they went 8 o'clock, not 7.
That's right, 8 o'clock.
Right.
Well, what does that prove?
Well, it doesn't exactly prove anything. I just said it was just part of the picture. I never said it proved anything.
Is that all?
Yeah.
I don't know. Most of it's unsaid already. We can sit here and talk about these things all day, but I just think we're wasting our time.
I don't.
Neither do I. Go on. Just look at the kid's record. He's stolen a car, he's been arrested for mugging, and I think they said he stabbed somebody in the arm.
They did.
So the kid's been picked up for knife fighting. At 15, he was in reform school.
And they sent him to reform school for knifing someone.
This is a very fine boy.
Ever since he was 5 years old, his father beat him up regularly. He used his fist.
So would I on a kid like that.
You're right! It's the kids. The way they are. They just don't listen. I've got a kid. When he was 8 years old, I saw him run away from a fight. I was so ashamed, I told him right out, "Boy, I'm gonna make a man out of you. Or I'm gonna bust you up trying." When he was 15 years old, he hit me in the face. He's real big, you know. Rotten kid. I hate tough kids. You work your heart out, Lynn. Let's move on.
We're missing the point here. This boy, let's say he's a product of a filthy neighborhood and a broken home. We can't help that. We're not here to go into the reasons why slums are breeding grounds for criminals. They are.